Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Colleen, and today I'm going to work on something that I've never made myself. It was something my grandmother used to make, but it's not something I've ever attempted. So I looked up a recipe today, and my wonderful neighbor next door had somebody gift her a bunch of apples, so she brought me a bag, and they've been sitting on the counter for a few days, and I think it's time to use them before I lose them. So I have to admit I'm getting a little burned out with making jams and jellies and preserving food. I think I just need a little bit of a break, but these won't wait. So I'll gather up everything the recipe calls for, and I will be right back. Well, I think I've got it all out here, and I am set to go. I have some apples out on the board. It calls for 1.5 pounds. I don't have a proper kitchen scale, so I tried to measure them on my bathroom scale. But a second recipe I found said 6 cups. So we'll see what this yields, the 1.5 pounds on the bathroom scale. And yes, I do peel apples with a knife. And no, I won't make you watch this whole thing. I'll speed this up a cut. Okay, but we need 1.5 pounds of apples, peeled, cored, and chopped. Now it says rough chopped, but I think it'd be more like a dice is what I'm thinking. So we'll see how that goes. Well, that took a little longer than I expected. I had a couple of interruptions, and so I'm just getting to the chopping and coring part now. I just wanted to talk a little bit about fall and the weather. And one of the wonderful things about fall are the scents that come with it. And one of the things that I had to do before I could start this process is I realized before I started the recipe called for apple pie spice, but I was out of apple pie spice, my mix that I make, so I had to take a moment to make that spice mix up, and the scent of it is just incredible. So I will leave a link in the description box below as to how you can make up your own apple pie spice if you haven't purchased a bottle from the store already. And maybe you'll find that useful as well. Back to work. I have the apples all chopped up. And as you can see, they've oxidized a little. And normally, if I was going to cook with apples, I would make sure that I float them in some lemon juice in order to preserve their color and stop them from oxidizing. But because this recipe has cinnamon in it, it causes the liquid in the jam to be dark anyway. So I wasn't worried about the oxidation on the apples. And it took me quite a bit longer than I thought that it would to chop all those apples up. So I've got the apples in the pot, and I'm going to add to that 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Ooh, my goodness. I should have taken the top off, I can tell. And I'm going to add 1 1/4 cups of apple juice, and I just bought apple juice from the store, pure apple juice, not the concentrate. And I am going to add 1 cup of, these are just sultanas, but if you had golden raisins on hand, they would work just fine as well. And it just so happens I love raisins. Oh, and there was a perfect cup left in the bag. So I'm going to stir these all together in the pot, and then see what the next step says right here on my trusty phone. I don't know why Grandma made this, probably because they ate a lot of pork in her house, and this was always served with pork, so maybe that's why. So now it says to get this into the pot and stir to combine, and then in a small bowl to mix together a quarter cup of the sugar. We're going to have, I think it's 3 cups in total, and the fruit pectin, which is powdered fruit pectin, and it's a whole package. And we are going to put in the spices. Now, this is the spice blend I was talking about that I'll put the recipe for in the thing below, and I'll keep the remainder in a small mason jar. So we need 2 teaspoons, and this is a ½ teaspoon. And I don't mind if it's a little spicier. And I'm going to give that a stir with a dry spoon. Mix that all together. Oh, this smells so good already. It's just the spices, right? You know, sugar, pour the mixture into the pot and stir to combine, and bring the apple mixture to a boil over high heat, stirring constantly. And then stir in the remaining sugars. Okay, so the rest of the action takes place over at the stove. So I will take you over there so that you can get an idea of what is going on. So I've brought the mixture to a boil on the stove, and then it says to add the remaining sugar. So the remaining sugar would be 1 3/4 cups of white sugar and 1 cup of brown sugar. Now I need to bring, once this is all mixed in really well, I need to bring this back to a boil and boil hard, stirring constantly for 2 minutes. And I will set a timer for that. Oh my gosh, I wish you could be in my kitchen right now and smell this, because it just smells heavenly. It smells like Grandma's house. Hope that makes sense to some of you at least, that your home smelled like that, if you have remembrances of that growing up. My grandmother was definitely meant to live on a farm. She loved being out of doors, and she loved gardening, and not so much cooking, but she was required of her in her day. She was a keeper. She did can until she got a freezer, and anything that could be froze was then froze, because it was so much simpler than canning and heating the house all day long. So I am glad that I can, that I learned that. Mostly I learned it from my mom, who was a fantastic canner. But some of it I did, my memories, some of my fondest memories with my grandma was when we were either bringing in the garden or working in the garden, and when we were preserving food together. So, oh, it's delightful in here. I have my seals in the pot. I know it says that we don't have to do that anymore, but I still heat all of my seals, and I have my rings ready, and I have tiny jars. That's all I have left. So I'm talking about the little, what are they? ½ cup jars. So 4-ounce jars. That's what I have left for jelly jars. So I can see I'm going to have quite a few. I might actually pull out a couple of different kinds of jars, but for now, heating in the sink in hot water, I have 4-ounce jars. And my canner, which is beside this pot on the stove, is heated. In fact, I had to turn it down because it got ahead of me there. Here we go. We're starting to come back to the bubble again. Now, we're going to time this for 2 minutes. And we're going to keep stirring this while the timer is going, because this would stick with all that sugar in there, and we don't want that to happen. It's a beautiful sunny day here where we are today, and I'm looking forward to some fun activities this afternoon. I'm a member of the Golden Light Horse Club, and today we have our annual banquet and roundup, and we're having a meal together, and it's always fun to get together with the folks from the horse club. They're pretty down to earth, and they love their horses, and they really care about each other, which is fantastic to see. So I'm looking forward to my afternoon. And then I believe this evening the Golden Junior Rockets are playing hockey in my little town. We have a Junior D hockey organization here for over 25 years now, and they travel all over British Columbia and even down into the United States sometimes to play hockey. They're a member of the KIJHL, which is the Kootenay International Junior Hockey League, and I've been involved with that organization for I'm going to say 20 years, quite a while, and I like to, when I get a chance, go and cheer the boys on. So I'll be doing that today. This evening as well, I hope to get over there for a little bit. Depends on how late the other event goes. So we're just about there. We almost have our time in. And then I'll bring you back and we'll get this ladled into the jars. I got it back to the counter and I'm just going to let it stir down a little bit because right now the fruit is all floating. So I want to cool it a little bit to help the fruit to settle a little better in the jars. And so I'm just going to do this for a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to give it a go. So here's these tiny little jars. You can tell that you're getting to the end of the line when you're fishing around for jars this size. And I am going to probably do a couple of large jars as well. I'm going to bring this to about the 1/4 inch mark, or maybe a little better than that. And these will go into my water bath canner for 10 minutes at a full rolling boil. And then they'll be shelf stable and I can put them away in the cupboard. My husband and I, enjoy pork as well, and we enjoy having a little something extra on our pork when we eat it. That might be a little tad full. So I know that we're going to enjoy this. My husband's never had it. It's the first time I have ever made it. Not the first time I've eaten it, but the first time I've ever made it. So I was excited to give it a go and see if it tasted like Grandma's. If it reminded me of Grandma's. And the older I get, the more things I'm doing that remind me of my grandma. That includes the odd noises you make when you stand up and sit down these days. Now I'm going to take my skewer. I'm going to bring these jars over here. Hopefully you can see them. I'm going to just take a skewer and I'm going to run the skewer around inside the jar. And try and get out any air bubbles that might be in there. Although I think that there's quite a bit of fluid in there and the pieces are small, so there's probably not a lot of places for air bubbles to hide, but you just don't know. So, better to be safe than sorry. I can't tell you how many times I've actually stopped what I was doing, even creating videos here, stopped what I was doing, stopped the camera, go back, take all the seals off of the jars, or all the rings off the jars and the seals, because I couldn't remember if I had either A, wiped the rims, or B, debubbled. I'm just going to put these rings on. I'm going to put these into the canner where they'll water bath pan for 10 minutes. And once one of the jars has cooled, I'll bring you back. We'll open a jar and you can see the end result. And I'll give you a little taste test. Well, here I am back, and as promised, I'm going to open up one of these jars and show you the contents. I think it'll be this one because I could get the seal off. And this is what it looks like. And it's almost like a chutney, I guess, on the plate. And it tastes like apple pie. It's so good. And it's really, really good as just a little something to add to a bit of pork or chicken. But it's also great on a piece of toast. So I hope you've enjoyed this. This is a really, really old-fashioned recipe. And, this particular recipe, obviously, I got it off the internet. But it's one that harkens back to days way gone past. And I was having a discussion with somebody about it today, and they said, oh yeah, they remembered their grandmother used to make this recipe. So I know that it's an old recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for joining me today. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.